I am just the junk seller. This presentation is going to be a multi-part presentation, and it's about a recent buying trip that I took to Edwardsville, Illinois. My intention on this trip was to go to the estate sales in the St. Louis area. I never even made it there. There were other opportunities that wound up presenting themselves, and I was able to come back with a couple of trophies, regardless of whether I made it to the estate sales anyway. But I'm going to take you through some of this. I left Texas on Wednesday the 7th, on May the 7th, and I took a couple of days to get to Edwardsville. I wanted to shop a lot of little towns along the way. I've had some pretty good success in Arkansas before, so I was stopping at thrift stores, little flea markets, antique malls, that kind of thing along the way. Didn't do a whole lot of it, but every time I got into town and it seemed like a pretty easy opportunity, I chased it down. And I stopped in Hope, Arkansas, Arkadelphia, Arkansas, Benton, Searcy, Poplar Bluff, I believe was in Missouri. I stopped at three places there, and there was a place north of Popular Bluff called JP's Bargain Barn. I found it amazing that he had a number 11 Griswold with a lid for $850. I mean, I found just some really crazy prices on stuff. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff that I would even take if they were giving it to me for free. But what I did find that was worth having, I felt like it was way overpriced. There was a little flea market in a place called Greenville. It was called the County Seat Flea Market. But I didn't find anything at any of these sales except one place just across the border into Missouri. I found this lid. It's to a Pyrex dish. It cost me $1. Anytime I get these, I'll pick them up. But I wound up getting to my buddy's house, and he was letting me couch surf for a week, so that I could come up there and see what they had in Edwardsville. And I think it was on Saturday morning. He and we went over to a friend's house. He had a friend that had invited him to come over for to buy a bunch of stuff. He was a picker, and he had some pretty good stuff. And I'm gonna take you through. I made $225 purchase at his place, and I'm gonna take you through that now. It took me a while to get started at that pick because the guy had some price tags on some of the stuff. Often it was the price that he paid for it, and it was actually cheaper than the sticker marked. But these embellishments for, I think this is for a 51 or 52 Starfire Chevrolet. There's serial numbers on the back. I think that those will wind up bringing me maybe $150, $200. This license plate, and I've put this to several guys that are license plate collectors. Nobody understands what that is about. I think that it might be from a serial number from like a production line, but nobody knows what it is yet. These two jars, these are Boyd's canning jars. I got those two. The truck is a Strutco dump truck, and this OK Hardware truck, I thought that it was Oklahoma, but it winds up being that is actually a Wisconsin company. But all of that group right there cost me $50. And once I saw that I could get that kind of value, I was encouraged to do some more shopping, and I bought these. These are uranium glass. Yeah, prices are like $50 and $60 on the pictures. I actually think that I get a little more than that. This one is Fostoria. I believe that I can get probably let's see, $65 for it. And this one, I forget what he said that it was, but it had a $60 price tag. I think I'd probably get $75 for that, and probably $10 for each of the little juice glasses. But I paid $80 for that group. I'm pretty certain that I can get about $140 out of it. Two other items that I got at that sale was this. It's a 360-degree fan. It's got a funnel in on the bottom under the seat here that makes the air fill the room. 360-degree airflow. It's had the cord redone right there, but it's about to be hot, and I have a lot of customers that come from southern Louisiana and from Texas. I paid $20 for this. I'll be able to get probably $70-$80 out of it. The pedal car here, that was $75, and I'm told that $225 should be um where this sells, that they commonly sell for that kind of money. But overall, I paid $225 for everything that I got at that pick, and I believe that will all be refunded to me, just on the pedal car. Everything else will be taking me into profit. So I hit an estate sale on Saturday that it was there in the town. I think it was Marysville or Collinsville, something very near to Edwardsville. But I paid I think $31 for this, and there was a $5 box of vintage toys that I've misplaced already. Um, these couple of rulers, he won $5 for the pair of them. The teapot was $5, $2 a piece on these, $5 on the cans. Um, in total, I spent $31 at that sale, and I felt like it was okay, but I'd rather spend my money other ways. But when you're out there, you got to buy something. And I was feeling pressure at this time. So this is where the whole trip comes a little bit blurry for me. I think it was on Saturday that I went to an auction called Roniger's. I believe that this was after we went to the pick at my buddy's friend's place. But I wound up buying a whole bunch of stuff there. I spent $331.50. I bought five quilts because I felt like I could make a really good presentation at Canton. I paid between $30 and $55 a piece for them. The first thing that I bought there though was a Wagner a piece of Magnolite. It had the trivet in it, and I think that I won that at auction for 27.50. I bought a crock there. The piece of Magnolite I sold to my buddy whose house I was couch surfing at. He he makes a lot of sales in Magnolite, and I was gonna let him have it at the price that I paid for it, but he insisted on giving me some profit on it, and I think he gave me $40 for it or something like that. But and that kind of set a trend for what happened for the rest of the week that I was up there. I sold him some silver plate, and I sold him some Pyrex, stuff that I picked up. And I was trying to give it to him at the cost that I got it for, but he insisted that I take some profit on it. And at the sale, I wound up buying a piece of cast iron. I thought that it was a BSR, but it was a Lodge. It was contemporary. I paid $17.50. I should be able to still get $40 or $45 for it. It's a Dutch oven. It's really clean. But that is, I would never pay $17.50 knowingly for a contemporary Lodge Dutch oven. But it came with three books that were about motorcycles. Kawasaki, the service manuals, Kawasaki 125, and a couple of that for Moto Guzzi, and bought some glass, some Amberina glass. I think that the three pieces there came to me at like $8. The die cast horses I think were $6. That whole mess of old hand painted dishes and transfer print dishes came to me at $2. I mean, it was just a price that I couldn't pass on it. But I waited out the whole auction. I think that I got the best thing there, and it was this hairless Harry bouncy horse, and it went. I was willing to pay $75 for it, and I think that I can get $175 out of it, maybe even better. At the antique malls, the Western Flyer ones, the plastic ones, are selling for as much as $275, which I think is crazy money. But this is even rarer than those because it's got the body is pressed paper, and if those get wet at all, they just disintegrate. And this has wooden legs, has a pressed paper body. Now up around where the stick goes through the head, there's some issues, and you can see that it's made of paper. And I think that whoever buys it should touch it up with Kills paint um, to to keep the moisture out of it. But it was it was the last thing that I bought there, and it was $20. And like I said, I was willing to pay 75. Um, there was a situation where there were some pocket knives that I wanted to bid on, and I went back to see where they were in relationship to the progress of the auction, and they had disappeared. And I think that it's somebody that I know from Canton. When I got to this auction, even though this is way out in Greenville, Illinois, there were two. Well, there were three people there, but two of them are associated. But there were three people there that I knew from Canton, Texas, and this was one of the places that they source material. But I was really happy with the bouncy horse. The $331 that and 50 cents that I spent wasn't an issue. I think that I'll do that in quilts this show. I got five of them. I'll be able to make a pretty decent presentation. And I think this is where my view of what this buying trip was going to be like started to turn around a bit, because I felt like I was getting into some decent material at a decent price. So my first Saturday there was in Edwardsville was pretty busy. I wound up going to the pick that morning, and then I went to the auction later that afternoon. But in the evening, Mike had a couple of friends who we visited their shop. I believe it's called My Antique Store or My Antique Shop. They have a pretty good presence on both the internet, on Facebook, and they're on eBay. But it was Mark and Audrey are the owners of the place, and they primarily focus on glass. And I wound up buying some paper, some photographs, and some postcards, and some other ephemera. And from what I understand about Mark, now that he and I have done business and he knows where to sell the stuff, he's kind of a mover and a shaker. And from what I understand, he will be accumulating stuff and present it to me whenever I come up every couple of months or so. But the stuff that I got a couple of Oklahoma cards that were Guthrie, Oklahoma, and a Will Rogers card. I collect Will Rogers stuff. Well, I accumulate it. I'm trying to curate a collection, and I got some Michigan stuff, some pretty good postcards from Michigan. The Bay City Railroad Roundhouse card. That one's probably the best card out of everything there. The Mexican Revolution cards, where they have the dead Mexicans, the revolutionaries. Those are pretty morbid cards, but they sell well. I got a lot of ink blotters for the Emerson fan and for Mazda lights. The blue ones in particular, they're probably pretty saleable just because of the quality of the graphic on it. It's a beautiful illustration. But the best thing that I got there was this piece of paper that was a newsletter from the Numismatic Bank of Boston, Massachusetts. And it's dated 1890. It's the earliest bit of numismatic literature that I've got. I haven't been able to comp this. I don't know if it's rare or not, but they cover some of the the trophy coins, the ultra rare stuff that is featured from American News Numismatics. If I ever start doing the coin shows, I'll probably have it framed and presented there. Maybe I'll find out some information about the the newsletter from the guys that appear there. It could be rare. It could be a common piece. I really don't know. It's been difficult to research so far. But anybody that knows, I'm crazy about paper. I got a tin type image that was really really clean, and then I got a CDV, a carte de visite, that was from Saginaw City. And I did some research one time because there was a East Saginaw and then Saginaw City. Everything got incorporated into what they now call Saginaw, Michigan. But I think that they incorporated all that in like 1901 or 1904. And the CDV has an imprint on the back side of it that says Saginaw City instead of Saginaw, which I found a little bit interesting. But the big lesson from this day was the value of associates. Mike has a lot of contacts up there, and I benefited from meeting a lot of those people. And probably the majority, there's another one in another presentation that'd be made. The majority of the money that I spent with associates of his. I'm not going to say that the greatest value of the stuff that I got was from that, but I did pretty well at the auctions and at the neighborhood sales also. But I did I did rather enjoy being able to meet some of his contacts up there. I was able to source some pretty good material. But if you've enjoyed this presentation, please give it a like. If you have, please view some of my other videos, and if you like those as well, then please subscribe. But thank you for viewing.